The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. And that was Mandisa with Overcomer. Appropriately named Overcomer, because we've got a bit of an overcomer in the studio with you, with us, not with you, with us. And just a quick heads up, we will, of course, as we do each Wednesday, we will be talking about adult themes, addictions, that type of thing. So if you've got little ones with you, well, yeah, just bear that in mind. You might want to keep them otherwise engaged for the next sort of 40 minutes or so. Right. We're talking to Michelle. We spoke very briefly to her before the 10 o'clock news, so I'll wish her very good morning again. Morning, Michelle.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You were telling us just before the 10 o'clock news that you're not really a local girl, but you're not that far away. You were born in Musselbrook?
No, I was born in Armidale, but I've grown up in Musselbrook.
Yeah. So what was life like for you growing up?
It was a bit difficult.
Yeah?
My father worked a lot. My mother was a schizophrenic alcoholic and stayed at home, so it was a bit sort of up and down most days.
So addictions have been in and around you ever since you were born?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a tough upbringing. You were an only child, were you?
No, I have three brothers.
Yeah.
I have an older brother that doesn't live with us. He's like to another. He's my father's son.
Okay.
And I have two brothers that I grew up with.
Yeah.
That were in immediate family.
Yeah.
Type thing. Yeah.
But not an easy childhood, I would imagine, with sort of mum being mentally ill and also alcoholic.
It wasn't easy at all. It was sort of every weekend we'd do whatever we could to get out of the house.
Yeah.
His dad would be working sort of 9 months away sometimes, and it was hard. And being the only girl, I tend to have copped the brunt of most of it.
Most of it?
Yeah, mum's like sort of not being well and stuff like that. It was
So you were there and mum lashed out and you were in the firing line?
Yeah.
So was that sort of physical abuse where you hurt, or was it just...
it was physical abuse.
Yeah.
She would get very violent, and sometimes she wouldn't remember what she did.
No.
So it was sort of hard to process that growing up.
Yeah.
I sort of took it on as that there must be something wrong with me, kind of thing. For my mother to be sort of carrying on in that manner. I try to protect my brothers from it as much as possible.
Yeah. It requires you to grow up very quickly, I imagine. Yeah. So, was it that sort of very difficult upbringing childhood that led to addictions, do you think?
Yeah. It was most definitely.
And when did they come into your life?
I was at the age of 10 when I first started using alcohol and marijuana.
Yeah.
To sort of, anything to make me feel better than what I felt at the time.
Yeah, just a bit of an escape from that sort of nightmare that you were living.
Yeah.
Where do you get marijuana as a 10-year-old?
I hung out with a lot of older people sort of in Musselbrook, and drugs were sort of everywhere.
Freely available?
Yeah, and I was a bit of a nutcase of a kid, so there wasn't much I wouldn't do, and the older guys were like, well...
Yeah.
She's a bit crazy, so we'll hang on to her.
Yeah. So you experimented with a lot, the drugs, the alcohol, everything.
Yeah.
By what age would you have called yourself perhaps an addict? I mean, you started at 10.
Yeah. I think I've always been an addict. Like, it's just sort of part of my nature, a personality defect, you call it. But when I was about 15, I had an incident where I'd physically tried to cut off my own arm. I was drug-induced alcohol...
Psychosis
type thing, yeah. And I was put into a mental health centre.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty sort of scary.
I can imagine. How old were you now?
I would have only been 15, 16.
Without dwelling on it, because it's such a horrific incident, you tried to cut off your arm because of perhaps the voices in your head through the drug psychosis, and then you were sectioned to a mental health hospital. Yeah.
And I stayed there for a couple of months and got a bit of help. And being sort of that young, it didn't really go down too well with, there's not much help out there for children of that age.
Not many youth beds for mental health.
No.
So what did they do? Put you in an adult sort of ward or something like that?
Yeah, it was an adult ward.
Yeah.
It was quite scary.
I imagine. Yeah.
You would have thought that would have sort of deterred me enough, but it really didn't. It wasn't.
No.
The people in there weren't anything out of the ordinary that I weren't used to already dealing with at that age.
And what's happening to your schooling and your education during all this time?
I was quite smart at school.
Yeah.
The teachers couldn't believe that I was sort of getting the grades that I was, while they sort of knew something was going on at home.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I was showing up at school affected by drugs or alcohol, but still getting good grades.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that let me down was my attendance.
It's nothing to do with intelligence then, is it?
No, I was quite...
You were intelligent, but you were still, susceptible to the addictions.
Yeah, well, addiction doesn't really care how smart you are.
No, or who you are, or how much money you've got in the bank.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So you leave school, did things look up when you started working
I ended
for a
up,
living?
I got asked to leave in year 11 because due to lack of attendance and stuff like that. My work was all up to scratch, but just my attendance level was really
Poor.
bad. Yeah. I left. I ended up in Sydney for a couple of years. I took off from home. Got into some not so good scenes there.
Yeah.
Just with criminal behaviour and stuff like that. And then that sort of set me up for the rest of it. Just drugs, alcohol, criminal behaviour.
And that's it. That was your life now.
Yeah.
At such a young age.
That was all I knew. It was all I thought I was worth. I didn't know any other way. It was
And what was your low spot?
I've had
the point at which you cried out, "I'm just going to have to do something about this."
Yeah. Well, sort of seeing my eldest two children pick up marijuana, I never ever wanted that for them, sort of thing. But monkey see, monkey do, as they say. I remember sitting in my room and I was just devastated with myself. I couldn't stop. I had, copious amounts of drugs, alcohol with me. I'd just sitting in my room by myself crying, saying that I can't stop and pleading to God to help me. I need help. I can't do this anymore. It was the first time I'd ever felt suicidal. But I never would have killed myself because I've got children. So but just the fact that I felt that way was enough. Yeah, it was enough for me.
You cried out to God, and you were explaining to us just before the news that God has always been present in your life, even though you didn't talk to Him all that often.
Yeah. With my boy's father, it was a very brutally violent relationship. I was with him for 13 years, and I had people that used to come around to do door knocking and Bible studies, and for some strange reason, they were the only people he would allow to come in that I could sit and speak with, and so I used that as an outlet and kept my connection with God through that.
Yeah.
But it was so strange, out of the ordinary. I wasn't allowed to have friends, I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, I wasn't allowed to do anything, but for some strange reason these people could come and we could study the Bible together, so that was a blessing in itself.
Yeah. So you knew of God, and God has been in your life for a long time.
Yeah.
But again, just before the 10 o'clock news, you said that you felt so bad about yourself during your addiction that you felt that you couldn't turn to God because you weren't worthy in some way.
Yeah, through the years of I was assaulted sexually as a young child, and then my mum was physically abusive in my older teenage years and stuff like that. The sexual assaults came from distant family relatives, and it was sort of, with mum being how she was, it was hard to try and talk to her about any of that sort of stuff, because there were certain things you didn't talk about. You just sort of and I didn't feel safe enough at the time anyway to talk to mum about it because of how she was.
You're completely on your own by the time. Just sort of had
to go up and suck it up and get on with it.
Yeah.
Type thing.
And so the thought of turning to God, you just didn't feel that you were worthy.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I just thought to myself, well, the lifestyle that I've had and the things that have happened to me over the years, of why would He care for me?
Yeah,
kind of
you just feel unclean in His presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, clothed in that uncleanliness.
Yeah, well, I thought that I was a bad person. That's why these things had happened over the years to me. So
it's funny the way our mind plays tricks on us, because as you say, you'd studied the Bible and you probably knew that, that God or Jesus went out of his way to find people just like that, didn't he?
Yeah.
But when it happens to you, it creates a barrier sometimes.
Yeah, and when you're told something, or for a long period of time, you tend to start believing it.
Yeah.
Which is what I did. I didn't believe that I was worth much.
Yeah. On a happier note, at some point in your life, somebody must have, for the very first time, mentioned the word Dooralong to you.
Yeah, well, I was sort of backwards and forwards to drug and alcohol services at Muswellbrook, and there was some lovely staff there that sort of would take me in every now and then to sort of get me to help them with sort of NAIDOC celebrations and stuff like that would come up, just to sort of go and help out these days and stuff.
Sort of manning the stand and talking to people.
Yeah, and just sort of, engaging with community and stuff like that. And we actually had a day down at Dooralong for the NAIDOC week a few years back.
Yeah.
And I remember joking with one of the staff that I knew that I'm going to go and get myself all bad and stuff up again so I can come back for a holiday.
And this is what you were saying to the staff down at Dooralong.
Yeah, and little did I know that I'd end up back there full time, sort of, rehabilitating.
Life can be strange at times, can't it?
Yeah. Any other place, but I don't think I would have, embraced it as much as what I have.
No.
It's just something special about the place. It really is.
A good place to break. You're right, there is something very special about Dooralong. God is sort of fighting and cheering for us. He's certainly been cheering for Michelle, who's our guest from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. Michelle has had God in her life all her life, but there was a time when she was in addiction, when she didn't feel worthy enough, good enough to sort of call upon him for help. But help is at hand. You found Dooralong.
Yep.
Yeah. What's it like? You went there at one stage as a helper, a NAIDOC week, as a sort of, helping out with drug and alcohol, but now you're back as a participant.
Yeah, it's a different sort of angle on it, but I couldn't be more thankful for the place. I really couldn't. It's definitely saved my life.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been a God job that I ended up there as quick as what I did.
Have you any views on the sort of length of the stay there? Because we know that there are sort of 1 month, 2 month, 3 month sort of rehab courses around, and for some people they work, and that's great. We're really thankful for that, but you deliberately chose one that could last for up to 10 months. I'm under the impression that I've been heavily in addiction for the last 20 to 30 years of my life, and something short term was definitely not going to cut it. No.
Definitely wouldn't have helped. I needed something more intensive and holistic, and it's exactly what Dooralong offers. Your
addictions were too deeply entrenched for you to be sort of put right in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, and plus they do, we get to see psychiatrists and counsellors there. There's support staff 24/7, so it's really good to know that we've got that support and that backup there if we need it.
You mentioned the holistic approach. What do you mean by the holistic approach?
They look after mental health, physical health, like emotional stuff, and plus spiritual health and growth as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's really plays a really important part. Well, for me anyway, it does.
Yeah. So not just the addictions are they trying to deal with, but sort of the causes of addictions and life lessons.
Yeah. Well, addiction is really only sort of like a band-aid. You know what I mean? Once you sort of get away from the addiction side of it, you've still got all these underlying issues as to why you became an addict and things like that. And Dooralong helps you address all of that sort of stuff.
That must be quite difficult, because you were explaining to us earlier you didn't start with your addictions, the drugs, the alcohol, as an experiment at school. You started at a very early age because you were trying to blot stuff out.
Yeah, and the one thing I look at it as, it's like trying to reprogram a computer. You know what I mean? Like I've sort of got to wipe my hard drive clean and just start again.
Reboot yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that could be tough, I imagine.
It is. It's definitely not the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. I can tell you that. I've been in some pretty bad situations and some hard places, but this is one of the toughest things I have ever done, is to sit and actually go through all my junk and get it all sorted out.
Be honest with people and being honest with yourself as well. Sometimes we don't like to admit these things, and
and just admitting that it's okay to be not okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it's okay.
And they have other modules there, don't they? Of course. What other modules?
Yeah, they go through stuff with like self-compassion.
What does that mean?
Just sort of being a bit kinder to myself. Like, I have a tendency I can sort of take care of other people and, you know, give them all the advice under the sun and help them with whatever they need help with. But when it comes to myself, I'm really, I don't think I'm worth it. So I just don't do it.
So you're kinder and more compassionate to other people than you are to yourself?
Yeah. I'm my own worst critic.
So they give you sort of lessons and strategies to...
Yeah, and ways to sort of just take it easy with myself and, you know, just to be okay kind of thing.
Yeah. If you heard our phone ring then, you're right, our phone did ring, but it stopped just as soon as it started, so I apologise for that. But yeah, but learning to like yourself.
Yeah, just sort of, because I've had such a bad view of myself over the years and just the bad things that have happened to me, I didn't really think I was worth much, so I didn't really take the time out to do anything as far as self-compassion goes with myself. But being in Dooralong, I'm starting to, I like who I am at the moment.
That's a huge change for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I can't say I fully love myself at the moment, but I'm getting there slowly.
Yeah. Which leads us into somebody who does love you and has always done. You've reconnected with God.
Yeah, I have. I've realised that I can't do it without Him. I've tried for years to do it run on my own will. It doesn't
work. A bit like
work.
a prodigal daughter in your case.
Yeah, yeah, it just doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? I've got to put Him first.
Yeah. My
recovery second, and then myself everything else will sort itself out.
And how did that reconnection come about at Dooralong?
Well, the main reason I was excited about going to Dooralong because I know it's a Christian-based program, and that to me is like something I know I need.
Yeah.
And reconnected through like I'm doing studies out there at the moment, recovery Bible studies and stuff like that. So we relate the 12 steps to the Bible, and also I joined the worship team, like a chapel singing group.
Yes. Yeah,
and I could not feel more connected when I'm singing.
That's super. It's Wednesday, so chapel night. You'll be singing tonight?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so you're on the worship team there.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I've always liked singing, but I only ever sang in front of my family, and that was basically it, sort of thing. It's the first time I've ever sung in front of a group.
Yeah.
And every time I get up there, I'm that nervous. But as soon as I start singing the chapel worship songs, it's just it just flows out.
Yeah. And what about church? Have you found a church with your style of music?
Yeah, I've got a long jetty we go to, and they have a band and sing and stuff like that. And it's every little bit of the program and every little bit that's been happening so far has just all been so right and so spot on for me. It's exactly what I've needed and when I've needed it.
So you're back in touch with God. He never left you, but you perhaps left Him for a little while for the reasons you've explained. But you're back on good terms with Him.
Yeah.
That's
I don't think He ever left me. I just think I was the one who let go of Him for a while.
It's usually the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Usually the truth of it. We're talking to Michelle this morning. Last time we were talking a few minutes ago, Michelle was telling us about her stay at Dooralong and the holistic approach that they have at Dooralong, where they view as a physical person, a mental and emotional and a spiritual person. And we were talking about her spiritual reconnection with God, and how really it's like coming home for her. She just loves that reconnection that she has. Okay, you've been there now 8 months, Michelle. You must be thinking, what's going to happen later?
Yeah, well, I've decided that I'm not going to go back to the town that I was living in.
This is Muswellbrook, isn't it?
Yeah. Just 30 years of addiction and criminal behaviour. I can't go back there and expect that I will be sort of seen in any different light. Just because I've changed doesn't mean that the area would have, and it'd be only a matter of time before I slip back into it again. So I decided to relocate.
The other people in your life that were peddling you drugs, they won't have changed either?
No, like I understand where they're at and stuff like that, but I'm not at that point in my life anymore, and it's just a matter of staying away from it and keeping my boundaries up.
So can we expect you to be staying here on the Central Coast?
Yeah, well, I will be relocating up around this area somewhere. I'd like to stay associated with Dooralong in some capacity. I've actually decided when I do go out after program, I'll be coming back to do art therapy on weekends with them.
Wow.
Yeah, I like to draw and paint and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
very therapeutic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Mindful meditation, they call it.
Yeah. So that will be a way in which you can stay connected with Dooralong.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're living locally. And work-wise, Michelle?
Well, down the track, I've sort of committed myself to basically just maintaining a sober and straight life once I get out. But I am looking at furthering my skills, doing courses to help me be able to become a support worker at Dooralong. Yeah, just with the amount of stuff that I've been through and life experience and stuff like that, I feel that I'd be able to help people, and you know, sort of a lot of stuff that's happened to me. I can relate to a lot of different people.
But you probably need bits of paper and qualifications.
Yeah. Well, there's a certificate certificate 3 in community services that I'll be starting soon.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will help me, and a couple of other little bits and pieces along the way.
And then you can help people who are in that situation that you were.
Yeah, and I've got enough life skills in that area, sort of thing. And I'm still lucky. I'm very blessed to still have my scruples about me. So. Yeah.
You were telling me of it was how much better it is for somebody, how somebody who's been through addictions like yourself, drug or alcohol, how much easier, I don't know whether that's the right word, but how much easier it is for you to connect with somebody who's actually going through drug and alcohol addictions. And you had this lovely sort of word image, a cartoon you called it. Do you want to share that with our listeners?
No worries. Well, one of my friends sent me a little sort of reading, and it's not on point, but you get the rough idea of it. There's an addict sitting down in a hole, and a priest comes along and says, you know, here's a Bible and I'll pray for you, but I can't help you out of that hole, which is addiction. Family members come past. They're, you know, we love you, we're here for you. We can't get you out of there. We don't know how to get you out of there. Doctors come along and psychiatrists, and they've all this self-help stuff to what you can do to help yourself while you're there, but we can't get you out of there. They can give medication, but we can't get you out of there. Another addict comes along and jumps in the hole with the person. The person is like, wow, what are you doing? Like, I'm stuck in here. He's like, it's okay, I've been here before, I know how to get out. I'll help you. So I think it's really important for addicts to be able to help other addicts that are coming through, because nobody understands us like we do. It's very hard space to be in, and if nobody understands you, then you're really not going to listen to them or accept help from them.
And that's what you want to do. You want to sort of jump down in that hole and sort of let them stand on your shoulders and crawl out.
Just help other people in addiction and stuff like that. It's not a nice place to be, and there's not a lot sort of in the way of services and stuff like that in my area where I'm from, sort of thing. So I'm blessed to have the knowledge of it as to what I do.
Good on you. And finally, Michelle, if there is somebody, or some of our listeners know of people who are in that situation that you were sort of 8-10 months ago, where you were reaching rock bottom, you've tried many things, you've been in addiction for years and years and years, it's sort of it's ruined your life, you're just hopeless and helpless. What advice would you give them from somebody who's been there, been in that hole?
That you aren't what's happened to you, you're not the things that you do. And reaching out and talking to somebody about it, ringing Lifeline, getting in touch with your nearest church, drug and alcohol services, just talking to people that can help, and be brutally honest with yourself. That's what I had to do to get where I am today. It's reach out, talk to people.
What do you mean by brutally honest with yourself?
I couldn't do it by myself.
Just acknowledge that.
Yeah. My ego was like, at a point where I thought I had to do it by myself, suck it up, get on with it. But we can't do it by ourselves. Humans need other humans to help. And
the first step is to reach out to somebody. It could just start with that phone call that you just mentioned.
Yeah, and just admitting to yourself that you've got a problem. Like it's drugs and alcohol and addiction. It doesn't care who we are or how smart we are. It can really trick us into thinking that we've got control over it when we don't.
So don't kid yourself into thinking, I could stop tomorrow if I wanted. I've got this under control.
Yeah. I used to say to my friends, give yourself 7 days. If you can't stop for 7 days, then you've got a problem.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10 you do.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
And make that call. And one number that we've already mentioned this morning would be a good start for drug or alcohol, because they would have a list of all the services that are available in your area. I know that for a fact, that they do have those lists. Wherever you are in Australia, they've got their computer there. If you tell them that you're looking for drug and alcohol services in your area, they will be able to refer you on. And that's Lifeline. Give them a ring. 13 11 14, or for any of those other issues that we've talked about today. And hey, we better let Michelle go, because it is Wednesday and she'll be rehearsing this afternoon in the worship team. So yeah, I hope we haven't worn out your voice this morning, and you'll be up there at chapel time tonight giving it full belt.
Yep, getting connected. And just so that the listeners out there, you are worthy of a good life, and you'll be all in my prayers.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that, Michelle. And I'm sure we would want to pray for you as well, and thank God for bringing you to Dooralong, but ask that He continue to guide you for the future as well.
Thank you for the opportunity to be able to tell my story.
Okay, our pleasure. You've been listening to an encore presentation of the Dooralong stories, which can be heard live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and repeated 8 p.m. Sunday and 1 a.m. Wednesday, right here on 94.9 rema.cc.